Hello and welcome to our second video on designing, building and painting your own kill team. In the first video we used the core manual from Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team to create an idea of what we were going to create. So in the previous video we decided to go for three Necron Immortals with different weaponry and one Death Mark. So, in order to get the best from this video, if you want to follow along at home, what you will require: clippers. I recommend highly a mould line remover. You'll understand why shortly. Glue. Now, unfortunately, I lost the lid for my glue, so I also have a guitar string to hopefully get rid of the blocks in the glue, which are probably going to be likely. And finally, you will require figures. And this is the Necron Immortal set, and as you can see, it is actually still in the cellophane. That's how new this is. So this is going to be exciting for all of us. So let's get started. Let's rip into the packaging. Here we go. Excitement. And we have our Necron Immortals set. Now, some models will come as in individual model, such as the Death Guard Foul Blightspawn. And the instructions for them are relatively simple. You just glue all the bits together. Hopefully you can see that. You just glue all the bits together and hey presto, you have a figure. With these figures and these sets, as you see, this builds 5. So it's a little bit more interesting. So let's open it up and have a look at the sprues. Now the sprue is what all of the bits of your figures are on. So as we open the box, I honestly don't know what's going to be in this set. I think that's everything. So we have the instructions, which we'll have a look at in a minute. Ooh, we have transfers. Now I'm rubbish with transfers, so there's a very good chance I will ignore these entirely, but I like them. They're cool. I like all the electrical gubbins. Looks a bit like a printed circuit board, so that's quite cool. But we'll ignore them. Let's get to the fun stuff. Bases. Obviously, your figure needs a base. So there's a base. 5 of them. Would you believe it? And then we have our sprues. Now, the sprues, as you can see, there are 2 of them in this set. They generally come in grey plastic. Some of them are a bit different, but these are grey. And straight away I am seeing lots of bits. So as it makes 5 people, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pairs of legs. So that's good. That's a good start. We have plenty of bodies. So these are the backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 backs. We have 1, 2 bodies here. So I'm going to assume 3, 4, 5. Sorted. And all the rest are weapons, by the looks of it. These guns are very big. A lot bigger than I thought they were going to be, at least. So, it's always worth figuring out what you're going to build and how you're going to build it. So, what I said in the last video is we were going to build 2 of the bog standard weapons. The Gauss Blaster, and 1 with a Tesla carbine, which will be this very large, beastly weapon. It looks suspiciously like they have to have extra arms in order to hold it. So that's going to be fun. We also have the disintegrators, which are humongous weapons. And they will go onto our death marks. So let's get started. So we'll have a look in our book just to make sure. So it gives you the instructions on how to build them. So Immortals with Gauss blasters. And it tells you everything that you need and the numbers that go with it. So hopefully this is in focus and you can see it all right. But the legs are 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8. The body is 9, 10, 11, 12 or 13. There's a back which is 16. Okay, so the back is different depending on what you build by the looks of it. So the Immortals with the Ghost Blasters, the back is 16 or 21 or 26 or 31, and the back I think will change how your figure looks. Yeah, so they look as though they're in different, as you can probably see from this bottom picture, they're all in different positions. If we go with the carbines, oh, it does look as though it's the same back. So we'll figure it out as we go. Let's do that. Oh, you got some blurb as well in the back for your characters in Spanish and German and other languages. I'm not even going to bother looking at the English one because I know what I want. So, first step is, well, we need some legs. So, I'm going to find my sprue with the legs, and I'm going to decide on one of the legs. Now, in the book, I'm going to try and follow the instructions as much as possible. It says 4, 5, 6, 7, right, so that's really useful. So, on the sprue, they are all numbered, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to start with 4. And with the clippers, I'm going to look for the flat edge, not the edge where it's indented. I'm going to go with flat edge. I find out where it attaches to the sprue, so in this case that is here, and one nice little clip. Same on the other one, so because this is on an angle, I'm going to try and cut it on an angle like this, so that way I don't get any extra bits left on my model. And then finally I'm going to do the same for the spine. There we go. So we now have some legs. Huzzah! I'm now going to get my mold line remover, and I'm just going to very gently, like you're peeling a potato, go across the top to get rid of that little bit of plastic that was sticking up on the top of the spine, and then the same on the feet. So that one's actually got quite a bit of plastic, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Especially on the base, it makes it really difficult if you've got quite a lot of plastic on the edge. It makes it very difficult to glue it onto the base and keep it there. Now I have absolutely no idea if this will pick up. Probably not. But on this model, there is a line running down the leg. Probably here is the easiest part to see it. Now that is a mold line. So the idea is when they use the models, when they build them, it's made out of plastic, as you can see. And the molds, they put the plastic into the mold, squish them together until the plastic sets, or cures, I think they call it, and then they take it out, and you have a bit. Yay! Unfortunately, sometimes, and I say sometimes, often, you will get a little bit of this line where the mold shut. So I don't like these, so I'm going to use my mold line remover, which is, the clues in the name, to very gently just scrape across it, just so it gets rid of it. Now, if you run your finger across it and you can feel it, you need to go a little bit more. If you can run your finger across and you don't feel it, that mold line is removed, which is, again, the name of the tool. So I'm going to do this for all of these little edges, all the way across. There's a little bit on the leg here as well. Same on the other side. Generally, mold lines follow a similar pattern. If it's on one side, it's probably on the other side as well. And this goes all the way down. You'll have somebody doing a little bit at a time, and I'm getting rid of the plastic as I go. You don't want a big build-up of plastic on here. So we'll do the same on the spine. I want this dude to look super awesome. I mean, he's been asleep for millions of years. The least I can do is get rid of his mold lines. There we go. Okay. There are also mold lines on the inside of his legs. So I'm just going to very, very quickly get rid of those as well. I'm not going to take as much time and care on these, because you're not going to see those as much. So I now have legs. Legs are great, but we need the rest of the body. So I'm going to have a look and figure out which body I want. Now, the bodies seem to be all the same front. Pretty much no difference. In fact, having a really quick look at 12 and 13, they are identical. So let's have a look at the rest of our sprue. They are basically all identical. There's a little bit of change with where the cabling is going, but other than that, they're exactly the same. So I'm going to go with 9. So let's clip that out, and again I'm using the flat edge, and I'm moving it so it's actually in line with the model. So that way there's less of the sprue that holds it on attached. So same with these, clip, and then one final clip. They should fall out. Normally I'd be using 2 hands to hold bits. That has fallen and it's gone. I don't know where it's gone. So disaster. Oh, there it is. We've found it. Again, hopefully you can actually see this quite clearly. In fact, even though it's blurred, you can see a little bit of a white blob sticking on the edge of this. So that is what we don't want, so I'm going to get rid of that. There we go. Same on this side, so my cutting wasn't very clean, unfortunately. But serves to show you what you shouldn't do. Yay! Learning experiences are great. This side, however, I actually did a good job. That was good. So I'm just going to get rid of a little bit of the excess, just so it's nice and smooth. Same on the other side. There's a tiny little mold line right on the edge. That's a little bit annoying. Only a little bit though, so it's okay. There's actually a massive mold line on the inside, but because it is on the inside, you're never going to see that, so I'm not fussed about that one. So sometimes you've got to be a little bit picky. So I now have a body and legs. That's great. Let's move on to the next part. So he's going to need a back, which is 16, and then we can actually start gluing some bits together. So I'm going to find the number 16, this one here, and again I'm going to do this quite quickly this time. I'm going to clip the parts out, and this time I'm actually going to try and do what I normally do, which is to hold a part of the model, so when you clip them out, it doesn't just fall to its doom. There we go. And I'm going to up the speed a little bit here, because I'm pretty quick at building models at this point. So again, mold line remover, get rid of the mold lines. They were atrocious. I did not clip those well at all. And I'm going to very quickly scan for any mold lines. That actually looks pretty good. I'm quite happy with that bit. Clip that bit off. Sometimes it is easier to use your actual clippers to get rid of a part. In this case, we don't need to worry, because it's not a massive bit. So there we go. And what we need to do is start gluing. I always recommend having a look at the instructions just before you glue anything, in case you've missed something really obvious. I haven't, so I now need to put my body together. So always get into this habit, dry fitting. The idea of dry fitting is you take your 2 parts, or however many parts, and you put them together before you use glue. So I've put those together. That looks good, because actually they don't fit together so well. So when I glue it, I know I need to hold in a little bit more pressure on this side. and to check that it all goes together. So that actually works really nicely. So now I can glue it. So I'm going to get my glue. Let's see if I need to use my my trusty guitar string. I do not. Hey, hey. So I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on. You don't want to put too much. There we go. So I've put it on all the surfaces where I've already seen when I push this down it's going to stick to. I'm going to push it down, and actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to open it ever so slightly and use a little bit of glue on the edge to put it into this gap, because I know that's not holding very well. So now I'm going to hold it together. Plastic glue works incredibly quickly. The idea is that it melts the plastic, but not your fingers. So if I get this little bit of glue on the end there, I've now got some glue on my finger. If I stick it on the model, yeah, I'm not sticking to the model. If this was super glue, I would be stuck to the model forever, which is not ideal. Now sometimes you will need to use super glue. If you paint your model first, so if you spray all the bits and paint them before you build them, you will basically need to use super glue, because this only works on plastic to plastic. As soon as you use something that is not plastic, it is not going to adhere to it properly. And just while this dries, I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up. But now he's ready to go. I can glue his legs onto his body. Again, I'm dry fitting to make sure it looks alright. So with how he's standing, that looks good. So a little tiny bit of glue inside here. There we go. A little bit more. There we go. Perfect. So I'm doing just enough so the surface looks slightly damp or slightly wet. And now I'm going to put this where I want it. Now this might take a little bit longer to dry, so please feel free to talk among yourselves while this adheres. And as we can see, there we go. I can even hold it upside down and it's fine. I did move it slightly. It's not properly stuck yet, but it doesn't take long at all. So we've got a little bit of things sticking out here. He's got no arms, he's got no head. So currently, a bit useless, but he's all right. He's all right. He's currently armless. Nice little pun for you there. Yes, it was terrible. There will be more. So let's get on to the next part. Let's give him an head. Heads are great. Heads are great. So I need to find the heads. Ta-da. They are in this corner, and I have lots of options. They are all the same head, or all the same head, so not a massive amount of options. I'm going to grab my Death Guard for a second. These guys have loads of options for heads. So this guy has a helmet with a big spike on the end. He has a helmet with 3 eyes and a little thing sticking out of his gob. This dude doesn't even have a helmet. He has a spike growing out of his face, which is grand. Lovely. He's a nice guy. You wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley or a blindingly light alley for that matter. I'm going to talk about all this stuff in another video. So we'll leave them where they are. We have our dude. We're just going to use head number 1. They're actually all labelled number 1, so yay. Usually you get a lot more choice. I probably would have picked a different army if I'd have realised how little options they had. But it's all good. So I've got my head. Checking for mould lines. That's all fine. You may notice, if you're eagle-eyed and can see, there is no little area for his head to glue to. So on the model, there is just a flat section. I've got a head. This is going to take a lot of concentration. Just as well you can't see my face because the concentration face is about to happen. So I'm going to put a very small blob of glue on the top. There we go. That's as much as I need. Very small. I'm going to get the head. I'm going to plonk it on. And I'm going to try and... I think I want this guy to be looking to his left. So I've got the head on. Before it actually glues in properly, I'm going to turn it slightly so he's looking off to the distance. He's looking good, and looking that way, because his gun is going to be pointing that way. So instead of him looking the opposite way, you know, kind of like walking away from an explosion and looking cool, he's going to be looking towards the enemy. He wants to make sure he doesn't miss. And as I've bought specific dice for these guys, hopefully he never will. So we're going to do the next part. And apologies for the length of this video, but it is really important that you get the building side sorted. It is massively important to Warhammer. It's one of the biggest parts. I love it. Some people don't. I'm a very big fan of the building side. In fact, I've built hundreds of figures and painted about 30 of them. Yes, this bit for me is where I get my enjoyment. So I'm going to use number 17. I'm going to clip the bits out again really quickly. I'm going to be careful where I clip these because I don't want to clip off the gun barrels. And sorted. Oh, I should have held on to that, but I didn't. Again, mold line. Oh, that's a really terrible mold line on there. And a bit of plastic, which I should have got rid of, but the mould line is actually over his knuckles, so I'm going to be quite careful there. Over his arm, I'm going to be less careful there. Over his other arm on the bottom, which again I'm going to be a bit less careful with. Generally speaking, where there's details, you want to be quite careful. If there are not details, just go to town. So here, on the ridge of the very cool pipe that we've got here, I'm going to be incredibly careful because what I don't want to do is remove any of that detail. I just want to get rid of the mold line, which I've managed to do successfully. So yay. Top of the gun, again, I'm not really going to be too careful. Actually, over the front of the gun, so this is a massive mold line, I'm going to be a bit more careful. Because if you go at it too aggressively, you'll deform it and it won't look right. If you're going for that, obviously do that. But generally speaking, you want to be as precise as possible. Okay, I have a gun. Yay. Obviously, with Warhammer, shooting things is good, generally speaking. So I'm going to take this gun, and there's a big hole here, so I'm going to sort that bit out first. For that, I'm going to require 18, so let's have a look. There's 18. Again, I'm going to clip it out pretty quickly. I'm going to check where this attaches. So it attaches there, and, oh, hang on. Yeah. Attaches there, and attaches there. And then I should just be able to push this out if you clip all the bits off, of course. Sorted. Always a good point right now for some chocolate to keep you going. Thank you, Terry, and your chocolate orange. I'm sorry if you can hear me chewing. These mics are really good, which is a blessing and a curse, particularly when you're eating chocolate orange and you love chocolate orange as much as I do. For some irony, I don't actually like orange. I just love chocolate orange. Actually, let's rephrase that. I just love chocolate. Yeah! So, I've sorted that, and this glues onto our weapon. I'm going to dry fit it. There are actually little bits to attach to, so let's just try it. Does that go like that? Yes, it does. So knowing that, we can stick our glue on. Come on, there we go. and I've made sure I've got quite a good coverage. Sticking it on, holding it down, and then a few seconds later, we have a gun. Huzzah! The next step is going to be to attach this to him. So this is actually going to require 2 glue points. I need to glue the piping down here to the piping down here, obviously, and his arm into this hole here. So I'm going to really test this and the dry fit for this part. Okay, so that's how it's going to go. So the easiest point to stick is going to be this, the piping at the bottom, because that is the bit that could end up looking a bit dodgy. The arm, not so much. So I'm going to stick a blob in the arm. I'm going to get quite a lot of coverage this time in there, because I'm not entirely sure where it's going to stick to. A little tiny bit on the edges of the piping, and I'm going to put the piping on first, then stick the arm in, and now I need to be very, very careful. So there we go. So I have the 3 pipes all glued and the arm itself. Now one of these is not attaching very well, so I'm going to hold it by the arm, and I'm just going to clamp this bit together a little bit. Now his legs are being a bit shaky, so I might need to re-glue the legs. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's holding quite nicely. The legs are really moving around, so we might need to look at that. But he's now actually looking a lot less armless, quite literally, because he has an arm. He needs another arm though, and this is an arm that is going to be holding this gun, because you might note, again, hopefully you can see it, there is a hand here and, well, no arm attached to it. So I need to find an arm, which in this case is numero 20, which conveniently is right here. So clippy clippy, sorted. Mold line, just making it all pretty, ready for my Necron, who is going to shoot people repeatedly in the face with his crazy gun. Sorted, and then we have to glue bits on. Now this again is going to be a bit of a faff, because I need to glue that into there and that onto there, and again we are dry fitting, so I know exactly where I need to glue. So I've done my dry fitting, bit of glue, and then sticking and sticking, and let's reposition him slightly. That's exactly where I want him, so I'm happy with that. And then I'm just going to hold him for a few seconds while he sorts himself out. So he's now got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, a back with a spiky thing on. But he's not finished yet, because his spine ends there. So we need to fill that spine with something. In this case, number 3. So I'm just going to let him chill on the table, because why not? And I'm going to look on here for number 3. It is not on this sprue, so I'm going to look for my other sprue. Dooby dooby doo, number 3. Number 3, hey, it's over here in the corner. So we're going to clip this off. Now this is particularly difficult to clip off. And now, when we look at it, there's quite a lot of plastic still on the bottom part there. So I'm going to actually use my clippers to get in there a little bit easier now that it's out the way, and try and get rid of as much of this as possible. Sometimes it is a real pain with these little parts to get rid of bits, but I've managed that relatively well, and now I can go back in with my mold line remover and remove that little bit of plastic there, and then obviously sort out the mold lines as well, because they are literally the worst. thing in Warhammer. Now, each one of these little spiny bits has a little bit of mould line on, so I'm going to be very, very careful, very, very gentle, because they look quite brittle.